In this video, we're going to massively improve your understanding of rhythm and how it applies to moving your body to swing and jazz music. Now, I don't know about you, but rhythm was something that I struggled with tremendously when I started out. Even after I became a pro and was touring and teaching, I still felt like something wasn't quite right, and it took me a long time to figure out what was missing. But when I finally did, it completely transformed how I felt moving to music and how my dancing looked on video. So I'm super excited to share this with you, whether you're in a similar position or you just enjoy when fundamental concepts are made simple and clear. Before we get started, I want to give you some context. I'll be pulling up a complete lesson from our online dance school. The lesson is called Better Rhythm, and it's the first lesson in a module that is focused on moving better, because in our opinion, rhythm is the first step towards improving the quality of your movement. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, get ready to take some notes and do some simple movements. And I'm going to warn you now, this is going to be a very basic lesson for your brain, but don't fall into the trap of thinking that just because you understand it up there, that it's going to automatically appear in your body movement. That part is going to take intentional practice. But for right now, let's get into it. In this video, we are going to work on better understanding rhythm and how it relates to body movement. In comparison to a musician who takes an understanding of rhythm and applies it to a musical instrument, when to play sounds, we as dancers have our instrument, the body, and we need to learn when and how to move it in relation to music. Rhythm is probably the most important ingredient that we will be working on when it comes to improving the quality of our movement as a dancer. If you had to choose between one of two evils, a really hideous shape with really good rhythm, or a really pretty shape with hideous rhythm, the better rhythm is always going to be more tolerable. It's going to be more enjoyable to watch while the music is playing. It's going to be more enjoyable to dance with while the music is playing. So this is such an important concept to lock down before we start getting into any other details. Let's get started. Let's break this complex idea of rhythm down into two simple components so it's a lot easier to understand and definitely easier to improve as we continue on our dancing journey. The first component is timing. The second component is expression, and you have to think of them in this particular order. Timing answers the question, when, in relation to the sounds that you hear in the music, should you do your movement? For example, rock, step. When do you rock? When do you step in relation to the sounds of the music? Once you know when to move and you have the timing down, you get to the second question, which is how. How should I go about moving? Should I accentuate the rock? Should I soften the rock and accentuate the step? Should everything be accentuated and aggressive or soft and smooth? When you get to the how question and you start answering that really well, then you're going to have good expression. So if you want to have great rhythm, you need to have great timing and great expression. It's when those two come together that you're going to see a major difference in the way your rhythm looks when you're watching your dancing and feels. Now, it's possible to have great timing and poor expression. This is actually where I was stuck for a very long time. I was so focused on the timing, and I'd watch my dancing, and it was all on time, but something was missing. That's because I wasn't asking the how to go about moving question. That's where the real high levels of expression when it comes to rhythm are going to start to shine when you get to that part of it. So we have timing and expression. When do I move? How do I go about it? And that's how we're going to be progressing through this lesson, is learning a lot about when and also a lot about how when it comes to swing and jazz music. Let's start talking about how to answer the question when in relation to the sounds of the music. The most prominent sound in music that most people will start to identify with immediately is the beat. The beat is what gives the song sort of its tempo. You know, it's very common for a song to come on and you immediately recognize that the song is a fast song or a slow song. That's because you hear the beat or you feel the beat inferred by all the sounds that you're hearing. So I'm going to get a beat going, and we're going to see how one steady beat will give us a time reference in which to do some simple things. Let's pull up that jam track. All right, so that's a beat. It's a nice steady beat with no accentuation. And with the beat intact, we can start to talk about when to move in relation to the beat in the music. Now, if I said, let's clap on every beat, that means the hands will come together when you hear the sound. And if you do this consistently and accurately, you will have good timing. Now, how would we go about that now? Well, all we have is a steady, consistent beat. So let's try to clap steady and consistently. It's not overly loud or overly quiet, so I'm just going to be kind of right here in the middle. Cool. If we said, let's walk on every beat, and we walk how? Steady and consistently, because that's really all this music is giving us. Now, we can also do things off the beat. So if I said, in between the beat, I want you to clap. And to help make it clear, let's walk on the beat. So we could go walking on the beat, and in between walks, we're going to add a clap. And it's a lot harder to do stuff in between beats than on beats, but that is also a way to talk about when to do something. Now, compared to what we just listened to, which was a steady beat, every beat sounded the same, boom, 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 boom. Great dance music has an alternating beat, which means every other beat sounds the same. And we end up turning boom, 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 boom into boom, crack, boom, crack, boom, crack. So you have this sound that goes boom, followed by crack, and that repeats. This is the alternating beat. Now, the boom is usually referred to as the downbeat and counted with 1. And the crack sound is usually referred to as the upbeat. It's also called the backbeat sometimes, but is usually counted as 2. So we have this beat structure that now alternates that we can count as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, boom, crack. What that means is when we talk about when, we can't just say clap on the beat, because when we have 2 beats to consider, the booms and the cracks, or the 1s and the 2s, we need to be more specific, like clap on 1s, clap on 2s, clap on both 1 and 2. And that's going to take our when question and make it a little bit more sophisticated. Let's pull up a jam track, which will have the consistent boom, boom, boom. And on top of that, I'm going to add a little bit of an accent every other beat so we get that boom, crack sound. Let's check it out. All right, there's our boom, crack, boom, which we would count as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now it's hard to hear, but every beat does have the boom, and every other beat has the additional crack. So we have boom, 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 boom. And that's going to put a little bit more power and force on the 2 than on the 1. And that is the nature of a lot of dance music, rock and roll, swing and jazz, and all that. It accentuates the backbeat, or the 2. So now, if I said clap on every single beat, both 1s and 2s, it would be like this. 1, 2, 1, and we're clapping on every beat. But if we talked about how, we got to put a little bit more emphasis into the crack. And by doing that, you notice my hand raises higher to create that force. And so the look of my hand, when I get the expression right, is a lot more rhythmically advanced than just getting the timing right. A little fast there for a second. So that's the difference between asking timing and also asking the question of how to go about it. Now, if I were to walk on every single beat, both 1s and 2s, and then ask how to go about it, listening, a little bit more for the crack. Now I gotta drop or accentuate the way I walk on that. It can express itself in different ways with bounce, lifting of the knee, etc. If I was rock stepping and I rocked back on 1, stepped on 2, I would find 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Now if I have the timing of it, without the expression, then it's just not as rhythmically advanced. And this is what identifying the alternating rhythm is all about, is it allows us to identify the timing and also hear that there's a little bit more emphasis on the 2. Now let's look at clapping with a complex instruction like, I want you to clap on the 2s and not on the 1. 1, 2. And I could be even more specific, like on the 1s, I want you to loop your hands around. 1, 1. So now we can give more instruction on how to go about doing something. With the 1, 2, it's very, very important that we
identify which one is 1 and which one is 2 correctly. Because if we don't, for example, if I said clap on 1 and you start clapping on the crack, which is 2, while this clap is cool and on the 2, it's against the instructions of clapping on 1, which would be this. So whenever we learn a step, it's going to have timing placed against the 1-2 boom crack of the music, and we want to get that timing accurate, and then we want to reflect the accent of the alternating beat appropriately. Now that you understand more about the alternating beat, and that most dance music does have an alternating beat, especially swing and jazz music, this is a really good moment to lock down this concept. Whenever you learn a dance step, you want to learn what parts of the movement happen on the downbeat and what parts of the movement happen on the upbeat, meaning what happens on 1s and what happens on 2s, or the odds and the evens. For example, the rock step, 1, 2. That means we rock on 1s and step on 2s. And because we accentuate the 2 a little bit more, we want to do it in a way that puts emphasis on the 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. The triple step is 1 and then followed by a 2. And so when we make these associations very clearly with what part of our step happens on the downbeat and the backbeat, and then when we hear the music, if we identify the downbeat and the backbeat accurately, then we can put the 2 together and have really good timing and good expression of most of our steps. And this is one of the major milestones to hit, is just knowing that when you learn a dance step, it will align itself with the groove of the music. Now, another thing I just said, the groove of the music, that's the alternating beat. We often say the groove as opposed to the alternating beat, because when it alternates, it creates this sort of groove you get stuck in. And that's what makes it so good for dancing, is you get stuck into the feel of it, and it makes holding the timing down really easy. If all we had was boom, 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 boom going, it would be really hard to know when to start. You wouldn't have a lot of influence for movement. But the alternating beat gives us something groovy to lock into and tells us how to walk. Like, we don't just walk like this, we walk like this. And we accentuate every other beat when we do it. All right, so that's a little bit about the alternating beat. Now, coming up next, we're going to add some more sounds that are going to make the music and the rhythm section sound a little bit more swinging, and we're going to get into that next. Before we get into the swinging sounds of the music, I want to mention one more thing with regards to the groove and counting. When we did our dance steps that we're using the 6-count basic footwork pattern, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rock step, march, march. I'm kind of miming a send out here. We were counting to 6 because our dance move took 6 beats of music. But underneath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the groove repeating over and over, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So what that means is 1 is an odd beat and 2 is an even beat. And when we count to 6 or to 8 or even higher numbers, depending on what it is we're counting, we want to hold down that boom crack sound throughout the count. So we end up with something that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we want to hear that all those odd beats and even beats are a reflection of the alternating beat of the music. So we end up doing something like this. 1, accent, 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 as we get into the expression of our dance steps, which we might be counting to 6 or to 8 or something like that. That's a little bit of note of how the groove is underneath a lot of our other steps that have longer count sequences.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the lesson so far, and if you are, go ahead and smash that like button to support our channel. And as a friendly reminder, when you're ready to take your dancing to the next level with us as your guides, be sure to check out the free trial to our online dance school at rhythmjuice.com. There you can access the complete skill building course that this lesson is part of and so much more. All right, let's get back into it.
Now let's get into some additional sounds that we're going to hear in swing and jazz music, which will further affect the feel of the rhythm and help us answer the how question. Getting the alternating rhythm down is probably, I would say, 80% there. But these additional sounds are what's going to really give swing its unique sound, its unique feel when moving. Now, swing is highly syncopated, meaning you're going to hear a lot of musical sounds in between beats. We have the beat, boom, crack, boom, ka-da, ge-goon, ga, ge-do, ga, ge-do, and we count these or say these usually with the word So if I said 1, 2, and you started hearing lots of that means there's lots of uhs, lots of sounds in between the beat, giving it a syncopated sound. So let's listen to that for a second. 1, 2, 1, a 2, a 1, 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 1, 2. So all of those uhs are going to be very, very popular places where musicians are going to be playing notes. That gives the music a real surprise effect to it. Now, in addition to that, the rhythm is also going to start creating this slow, fast sensation, which is where the word swing comes. If you watch a pendulum, you're going to see the arm rise and then fall. And we would count this as 1 would be the rise of the hand, 2 would be the acceleration past the leg. So we end up with this 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's that slow, sort of drawn out feel that accelerates through the 2. And they accomplish this with lots of complex musical nuances that I think are beyond the scope of this lesson, but I'm going to pull up a jam track, which is going to add some syncopation using a cymbal, and it's going to start to give the beat that sort of where you're going to hear some syncopation in between the beat, and you're going to start to feel that anticipation between the 1 and the 2, which gives it that swing. And that's going to further affect how we answer the how question. Let's pull up the music and listen to it. All right, so we have our layers now. Boom, 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 crack, boom, crack. And now we have that, which is going to start to give it that swinging sound. If you watch me swing my arm, there's that delay sensation between the 1 and 2. And when we start to use that, for example, clapping, we don't just go soft, strong, but we start to add a little bit of delay to the way our hands move. When we're rock stepping, it's not just accentuating the 2, but it's that slowing down the 1. So we end up with this slow, fast feel to the movement that gives things that swinging, delay, and anticipation. Now, if we were to turn off the swing of this by just changing where the syncopated note happens and moved it from the swung triplet, which is what we're hearing right now, a 1, a 2, a 3, and moved it to the middle, that'll take away a lot of the swinging sound. So I'm going to do that next so we can hear what that will sound like. So now I've switched where the syncopated note is from the swung triplet to the middle in between the beats, which is counted as 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1. And that really takes away this swinging in my arm doesn't feel right anymore. It gives you a more funky type of feel to it as opposed to swinging my rock step like that. It's more of this type of feel. And this is a big key difference between swing and jazz music and a lot of pop music that doesn't utilize the swung sound. Now let's move the music back to the swung sound and get that swing and feel back. All right, now we're back with that swinging sound, which is coming by moving the syncopated note a little bit towards the next beat, which we usually count as 2, a 1, 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 2. And that's going to bring back in that anticipation of the next movement, that delay, that slow, fast type of feel, which gives a lot more information about how to express the alternating beat. The last piece of rhythm I'd like to talk about in this lesson is offbeat hits. We have our beat, 1, 2, 1, 2. We talked about how that alternates, how we can get a swinging sensation in it. And now, in between 1 and 2, when sounds occur or steps occur, we want to know kind of accurately exactly where to place those, because that's going to really help us when we're trying to answer the when question. Now, in between a beat, there are lots of places that could be hit. But us as swing dancers, assuming we're not doing any tap dancing, are only going to really be worried about one location, and that is the before the beat. Now, if you listen, we have 1, 2, 1, 2, and I can start counting the before the beat as this: a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, 2. That comes from dividing the beat into 3 equal-sized pieces. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. If you had a pizza, visualize cutting it into 3 equal-sized pieces, right? Now that last sound, 1 and 2, that's the one we're going to be using the most. We found it in our triple step, 1, 2, 1 and 2. So I'm going to pull up a jam track that's going to emphasize a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2 continuously so you can hear that syncopated note consistently without stopping. Whenever we do our dance steps, we always have the ability to take something that happens on a beat, 1, 2, 1, a 2, a 1, 2, and move it to that to syncopate. But it's really important to understand kind of exactly where that sound is because it's not in between the beats, 1 and 2 and 1, which I'll also demonstrate. So this is kind of the last little part of our swing rhythm puzzle to understand. Let's pull up the jam track. All right. So now we have our beat, boom, 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 boom. We have our boom, crack, boom, crack, which gives us our 1, 2, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And then you hear that cymbal, a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, which creates this rolling sensation to things. Now if you watch me with my feet, that's me dancing on every single one of those syncopations. When we do triple steps, we're hitting every other one. And we also have the ability to move steps to those little hits sometimes. Now that's very different than in between the 2 beats, which I'm going to switch to right now. This would be a duple rhythm, not using that swung 8th note that we're dealing with right now. Now that is the same layer of musical instruments, but we've switched the note from the into the middle of the beat, so we end up with boom, ka, boom, ka, boom, ka, an even division. And this doesn't serve the swinging sensation, right? So if we did triple steps of this, that's the cha-cha sensation. And it doesn't quite serve us as well for swing and jazz dancing, but this is another valid understanding of when we could hit things in between the beat. So if you're hearing this sound while the swing music is playing, the sound, you won't really be accurately hitting the right note if that isn't aligned. All right, let's bring our swing back up. Just changing that placement of the note creates a completely different feel and a completely different timing when we're dealing with stuff that happens in between the beat, like a triple step. So if I'm doing the duple rhythm timing to this music, it won't sound quite right. My feet are going 1 and 2, while the music's going 1, a 2, and not having the note quite in the middle. So that's a little bit about syncopated offbeats. Thanks for working on your rhythm with me, and hopefully you're understanding more about what it takes to get better at it, especially breaking it into those 2 components, timing. When exactly am I supposed to be doing something? And then once that's accurately and consistently occurring, asking the question, how should I go about it so that it really reflects the feel and the sensation of the music? When you get good timing and good expression, your rhythm will really start to shine, and people will look at your dancing and usually say something along the lines of, dang, man, you have really good rhythm. And what they're really saying is you have really good timing matched with good expression, and it's really reflecting the way they hear the music as well. And so that's kind of the journey. Now, there is a lot more to cover in the topic of rhythm, especially getting into more advanced rhythms and rhythms with a lot more offbeat hits. But I think this is a good place to kind of start off, considering that we're just working on moves and flow and a lot of simple footwork patterns. So keep that in mind as you begin to get into the more advanced lessons. You're going to hear a lot of me referring to emphasizing the even beats of the music, the 2, 1, 2, and adding swing to it by giving it that slow, fast feel, because that's the music or the feel, the general feel for a lot of the music we'll be dancing to. However, there are lots of moments within swing dance songs and lots of swing dance songs that have different feels to them, and you want to be open to listening and analyzing kind of what's going on at any given moment in time so you can start to reflect it more accurately instead of just slapping a general rule on top of it. All right, if you're feeling comfortable with this, complete and continue, and let's keep on improving our dancing.
Thanks for working on your rhythm with me, and I hope this video has helped. Now remember, the big takeaway is that great rhythm is a combination of accurate timing and, don't forget, accurate expression. I really wish I would have known this sooner, because it would have saved me from years of feeling like something was just a bit off. Now, if you found this lesson helpful, please comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts or answer any questions. And don't forget to check out the free trial to our online dance school, Rhythmjuice, when you're ready to take the next step. Cheers, keep swinging.